Ever try building a quiet little cabin by the lake, only to have the local HOA act like you were dumping radioactive sludge? That's exactly what happened when Beverly Hartwell, our self-proclaimed neighborhood watchdog, planted herself in front of my unfinished porch and barked, "You can't just throw up a shack next to a river you don't even own." Problem is, she was wrong on multiple levels. Not only had I built the cabin legally a broken bar, I also owned the very river she was so desperate to defend. Ever had a neighbor totally flip out over something they didn't understand? Share your HOA nightmares in the comments, I'd love to hear them. I rolled up to the riverfront property in my dented pickup, packed with pine boards and just enough tools to get started. My plan was simple: build a modest cabin where I could work remotely, breathe clean air, and listen to the river flow. When I was a kid, my dad brought me to this same river every summer. We'd fish, skip rocks, and sleep beneath the stars under an old canvas tent he hauled around in his army duffel. He used to tell me stories about a time when people built things with their hands, and neighbors actually knew each other's names. This cabin wasn't just a weekend escape. It was a way to reconnect with my dad's memory, with the land, with something real. After he passed, the world felt like it was spinning too fast. I needed something solid, something that lasted. The sound of the river reminded me of his voice, steady, reassuring, and patient. A reminder that some things are worth building, even if it takes time. I had barely begun measuring out the foundation when I heard the unmistakable click of high heels on gravel. A woman, a blonde, clipboard in hand, navy blazer, strode toward me like she owned the place. Excuse me, she called out, her tone practically announcing trouble. "I'm Beverly Hartwell, chair of the Clearwater Ridge Homeowners Association." "What exactly do you think you're doing here?" I gestured toward the lumber pile beside me. "Just building a small cabin, ma'am. A peaceful spot to work and unwind." She looked at my supplies like I dumped a landfill on her doorstep. "A cabin? Do you even realize this is an upscale residential community?" Her pitch rose with each insult. "A broken bar trailer park fantasy is going to destroy property values. We have standards here. You can't just plop down whatever structure you want." I kept my voice calm. "I've got all the required building permits, and I wasn't told of any HOA restrictions." Her eyes lit up like it was Christmas morning. "Well, I'm telling you now." She clicked her pen dramatically. "Rule number 1. All homes must be a minimum of 3,000 square feet, colonial or Victorian design only. Rustic cabins are strictly forbidden." I feigned innocence. "So how does this HOA operate? Who actually makes the decisions?" Beverly puffed up like a rooster. "I do. I was elected chairwoman, and I've got 12 years of banking experience. I know what's best for this community." "How many members are in the HOA?" I asked, plain dumb. 27 households, each with one vote. "But I assure you, every choice we make reflects the collective will." Her smug smile could have powered a wind farm. I pushed a little further. "And who controls the river access?" She waved it off. "That's technically public land, but the HOA manages used to keep things orderly." I nodded, mentally noting every detail. Right then, a weathered man stepped out of the house next door. "Bill Murphy," he said, offering a handshake. "Watch yourself around Beverly. She's already run off 2 families over minor disagreements." Beverly's jaw tightened. "The Petersons and Johnsons didn't match our standards." Bill shook his head. "She fined them into financial ruin over nonsense violations." Beverly straightened her blazer, preparing her final blow. "You have 48 hours to clear out this mess, or I'll be forced to take legal action." Then she turned and marched off, heels clicking like an angry clock. I watched her go, smiling for the first time that day. Bill noticed. "You're oddly calm for someone who just got threatened by the neighborhood tyrant," he said. I chuckled, grabbing my measuring tape. "Bill, I actually like a good challenge." That night, I opened my laptop and called my attorney. "Thompson, I need a deep dive on some Montana property, specifically who owns the water usage rights and whether they're for sale." "Budget's not a concern." The next morning, I held a video call with my legal team. 2 priorities, I told them. First, secure exclusive usage rights to the section of Clearwater Creek that flows through this community. Second, begin acquiring HOA voting shares from residents to use shell companies if needed. My lead attorney raised an eyebrow. "Timber, this will require serious time and money." I waved him off. Didn't I say money's not the issue? And as for timing a broken bar, something tells me our friend Beverly is about to give us the perfect opening. Sure enough, at exactly 8 a.m., Beverly showed up like clockwork, holding a bright red envelope like a trophy. "Timber Mitchell, you are officially in violation of HOA regulations," she announced, effective immediately. "That eyesore will cost you $300 a day until it's removed." I took the envelope, studied it. "Wow, Beverly, this signature and seal look really official. Did you design this yourself?" Her face turned crimson. "That is the official HOA enforcement protocol, approved by the board." I looked up with innocent curiosity. "How many people actually sit on this board?" 27 households, 1 vote each," she answered, but it was clear she ran it like her own personal kingdom. Then, with overdone patience, she started counting on her fingers like she was explaining math to a toddler. 3 active board members, myself, Mrs. Patterson, and Mr. Marina. While Beverly rambled on about bylaws and community decorum, I was busy taking mental notes of every flaw in her system, every opening in her carefully guarded rulebook. She was still talking when I glanced back up. "Are you even listening to me?" she snapped, stomping her foot like a teenager denied a later curfew. I gave her the most genuine look I could muster. "Of course, Beverly, I'm listening to every word. I've got great respect for the law. Actually, I'm learning a lot about local governance." That seemed to soothe her ego. "Well, good. At least you're making an effort to educate yourself." I decided to test the waters. "Beverly, do you happen to know who actually holds the usage rights to this river?" She waved dismissively. "It's public land, but the HOA oversees access to maintain order." I nodded thoughtfully. "Fascinating. Any idea why the county never sold the usage rights to this particular section of the river?" Her brow tightened. "Why would I need to know that?" I shrugged. "Maybe because they've been waiting for someone with the means and vision to manage it the right way." Right then, Bill Murphy strolled up from his yard. "Beverly, has he filed all the permits yet?" She spun around, suddenly defensive. "That's irrelevant. The cabin violates aesthetic standards." Bill didn't budge. "But if the permits are in order." Broken bar. Her voice climbed an octave. "Permits don't give him permission to destroy our entire neighborhood." And just like that, Mrs. Patterson, one of Beverly's own board members, walked over from across the street. "Hi Timber, I heard you're buying HOA shares?" Beverly looked blindsided. "Patterson, who told you that?" Mrs. Patterson smiled warmly. "Your attorney contacted me, offered $2,000 for my share. That's way above market. I'm selling immediately." The color drained from Beverly's face. "You can't do that." Mrs. Patterson raised an eyebrow. "Why not? It's mine to sell." Beverly struggled to find the right words, her confidence faltering. "What exactly are you trying to pull?" she asked, her voice quieter than before. I met her gaze calmly. "I'm just following your advice." Beverly, learning how to be a model member of the community. Her face twisted through a cycle of confusion, suspicion, and slowly dawning panic. She could sense Ida her grip was weakening but didn't yet understand how or why. "You can't just buy a broken bar," she trailed off, unable to finish the sentence without admitting what scared her most. "By what?" I asked, with a pleasant smile. "I'm just getting to know my neighbors." Bill leaned closer and whispered, "You're planning something, aren't you?" I gave him a wink. "Let's just say I believe in solving problems." Thoroughly. That afternoon, Beverly left without her usual swagger. The sharpness was gone from her step, replaced by nervous glances at my lumber and suspicious looks toward the houses with curtains twitching. I could almost hear her thoughts racing, trying to identify the threat she couldn't yet name. Later that evening, I called Thompson. "What's the update?" "We'll have controlling interest in the HOA within 48 hours, and the county approved the river usage rights of $75,000. All paperwork will be finalized by Friday morning." I watched Beverly disappear into her home, probably preparing for a sleepless night of calls and frantic Googling, trying to stop something she didn't yet comprehend. "Perfect," I said. "Now we just wait for her to create the next opportunity for us." Thursday morning, Beverly returned, this time with 2 large men and a video camera crew in tow. "Timber Mitchell, your deadline has passed," she barked. "This is my enforcement team." I was lounging in a folding chair, sipping my morning coffee beside the same untouched pile of lumber. "Good morning, Beverly." "Gorgeous day, isn't it? Coffee? Her jaw clenched so hard I thought she might break a molar. Don't you dare joke. Remove this junk. Now. I stood up slowly and reached into my jacket, pulling out a sealed envelope. Before we do anything impulsive, I'd like to show you something. Do you know what I received from the county just yesterday? She wasn't in the mood. I don't care what kind of paperwork you think you have. Rules are rules. I opened the envelope slowly and held it out. Official construction permit, approved by the county yesterday afternoon. She snatched it from my hands like I'd handed her a fake passport. This is fake. No one gets permits this fast. I stayed calm. Are you sure you want to make this confrontation official? She was already dialing. Absolutely. This circus ends today. Beverly stepped back and spoke into the phone with all the authority she could summon. Hello, 911? I need to report illegal construction threatening public safety. My name is Beverly Hartwell, chairwoman of the Clearwater Ridge HOA. There's a man building a structure in violation of all community standards. She paced like a cornered animal, furious and flustered. No ma'am, he doesn't have proper permits. He's ruining the entire aesthetic of the riverfront. Yes, please send someone immediately. This is an emergency. 15 minutes later, Officer Amanda Brooks arrived, body cam on, already recording. Ma'am, she said, walking up to Beverly, you called in a report of illegal construction? Beverly pointed a shaking finger at me. Yes. That man is breaking every HOA regulation we have. Officer Brooks turned to me, looking calm and professional. Sir, do you have the necessary permits? I stood, handed her my folder. I do. Fully approved. Construction permit granted yesterday. Oh, and there's something else in there you might find interesting. A broken bar official authorization for exclusive riverfront usage rights. Officer Brooks carefully examined each document, scanning every seal and signature. Sir, these all appear to be in order, she said. Then, turning to Beverly, she added, Ma'am, he's fully permitted. Beverly's face paled as the crowd of onlookers reacted. Her voice came out in a stunned gasp. That's not possible. He can't own river access. I kept my voice calm and deliberate. Actually, Beverly, I purchased exclusive rights to use this stretch of the Riviera legally, through the county. The paperwork is all properly filed. She trembled with fury. You can't just buy a river. Officer Brooks held up the documents. He didn't buy the river. He bought exclusive usage rights. These are county approved and fully authorized. I turned to Beverly with what I hoped looked like a helpful expression. You've been very vocal about property rights, Beverly. I just went through the proper channels to secure mine. Her voice pitched higher with every word. Your HOA has no jurisdiction over those rights. She spun to Officer Brooks. There has to be something you can do. This is tearing the community apart. Officer Brooks remained professional. Ma'am, if the permits are valid and the rights are legally obtained, this isn't a criminal matter. It's civil. By now, neighbors had gathered at Bill Murphy, Mrs. Patterson, Mr. Marina, and several others forming a semicircle, drawn in by the escalating drama. Officer Brooks looked around and asked, just to clarify, you're now in charge of river access? I nodded. Yes, ma'am. All within the law. The crowd murmured, people exchanging surprised glances. Expression shifted from curiosity to outright disbelief. Beverly's eyes widened as the implications began to sink in. This is insane. You can't just waltz in and take control. I kept my tone even and friendly. You've always emphasized property rights and proper conduct, Beverly. I've simply followed that philosophy by the book. One last time. She turned toward Officer Brooks, desperation creeping into her voice. There has to be some legal remedy. Officer Brooks shook her head. Ma'am, as far as I can see, everything here checks out. If you have further concerns, you'll need to take them up civilly. Also, just a reminder, calling 911 for non-emergencies can result in penalties. Beverly flushed with embarrassment. Non-emergency? He's ruining everything. Officer Brooks was calm but firm. Legal construction, properly permitted, isn't a crime, ma'am. With that, she returned to her cruiser, leaving Beverly standing amid the whispering neighbors. Mrs. Patterson stepped forward. Timber, are you saying you now control our access to the water? I nodded with a polite smile. Technically, yes, but don't worry, I am not planning to be unreasonable. Mr. Marina joined the conversation. raising an eyebrow. "So what about all the HOA fees we pay for river maintenance?" I let that question sit for a moment. "Well, Mr. Marina, a broken bar that might be a discussion for another day." Beverly tried one last gambit. "Fine, you want to play legal games? I've got lawyers too." I nodded respectfully. "You're well within your rights, Beverly, but before you rack up a retainer fee, I'd suggest reading your own HOA bylaws." Her confidence flickered. "I wrote those bylaws." I gave her a warm smile. "I know, they've been very enlightening." As Officer Brooks wrapped up, she addressed the group. "Everything appears to be lawful, and again please don't use emergency services for civil disputes." Beverly's face burned with frustration. "He's tearing apart the community." But Officer Brooks was already leaving, unmoved. "Not if the law says otherwise." The neighbors lingered, chatting among themselves about what they had just witnessed. Beverly turned on her heel and stormed off, hurling one last threat over her shoulder. "This isn't over, Mitchell." I watched her retreat, smiling to myself. "I'm looking forward to our next discussion, Beverly." Bill Murphy ambled over, smirking. "Something tells me you're not done yet." I tucked my paperwork neatly back into its folder. "Bill, we're just getting started." The next morning, a Friday, I spotted Beverly sitting in her car at dawn, furiously working the phone. She looked like someone trying to rally troops for a battle. Bill, peering over the fence, confirmed my suspicions. "She's been at it all night," he said. "Calling every contact she has, trying to dig up a way to block you. I think she thinks she's found something." While she jabbered on, she looked utterly stunned by my response. "You're not going to sue me?" I kept my tone calm, firm but not unkind. "Beverly, I believe in second chances, but maybe it's time you reevaluate your leadership style." The reactions from the crowd spoke volumes. Bill Murphy shook his head in disbelief. "You're showing more grace than she deserves." Mrs. Patterson nodded in agreement. "You're lucky he's being this forgiving, Beverly." It was clear even to her now the tide of public opinion had turned. "I was just trying to protect the community," she mumbled weakly. Once the officials had left, the neighbors lingered, chatting about what had just unfolded. Mr. Marina walked up to me, his tone respectful. "You handled that better than most people would have. Very professional." I gave a modest shrug. "I'm only interested in peace and progress, Mr. Marina." Mrs. Patterson tilted her head, thoughtful. "Do you have any plans to actually improve things around here?" As Beverly began walking away, I called out casually, "Oh, Beverly, one more thing. There's an HOA meeting you might want to attend." She turned back, suspicion written all over her face. "What meeting?" I smiled. "Emergency shareholder session, Sunday at 2 p.m. I highly recommend you be there." Sunday afternoon arrived, and I had set up folding chairs and tables in my yard facing the river. A large banner read, "Clearwater Ridge HOA Emergency Meeting." Small groups of neighbors filtered in, clearly curious. Beverly arrived last, looking visibly anxious despite trying to keep her composure. She marched up. "What is this all about, Timber?" she demanded. "We're here for community business," I replied. "Very important business." All 27 households had shown up, had the biggest turnout the HOA had seen in years. Bill Murphy helped adjust the microphone and set up the seating. I stepped forward. "Thank you all for coming. Today, we need to have an open discussion about the future of our community leadership." Beverly immediately interrupted. "Wait a second, I'm still the chairperson. I'm the one who runs these meetings." I turned to her with a patient smile. "Exactly, Beverly, that's the topic we're here to address." I paused, letting the moment settle. Every face turned toward me. "Let me properly introduce myself. I'm Timber Mitchell, a tech entrepreneur, new neighbor, a broken bar, and now," I paused for emphasis, "majority shareholder in the Clearwater Ridge HOA." A ripple of gasps moved through the crowd. People turned to each other in stunned whispers. Beverly leapt to her feet. "What? That's impossible." I would have known. I pulled out a thick folder and opened it calmly. "Actually, over the past week, I illegally purchased 19 out of 27 HOA voting shares through individual agreements." Mrs. Patterson rose from her chair. "He bought mine for $2,000. More than fair." Mr. Marina stood as well. "Same here. I got a good deal." One by one, hands went up. More voices confirmed their sales. Beverly's eyes darted, scanning the group, trying to calculate the votes. But the numbers were clear. She began counting on her fingers, desperately trying to make it work. But the rest. I gestured to the remaining homeowners. The other 8 are here. Care to share your decisions? One by one, they spoke. Sold on Tuesday. Finally free. Best deal I've made in years. Beverly looked like the ground had vanished beneath her. This can't be legal. You can't buy your way into power. I kept my tone even, instructional. Beverly, this is precisely the structure you implemented. Voting shares, corporate-style governance. I just used the system efficiently. Bill Murphy added. He followed the rules you wrote. Beverly, I nodded. As majority shareholder, I'm now calling a vote for new leadership. With my 19 votes and 4 more from the remaining residents, the motion carried with ease. Beverly tried one last protest. This is a hostile takeover. The community won't stand for it. I responded calmly. Beverly, what just happened was a democratic vote. Under your own system, the community did stand for it. Mrs. Patterson spoke up from the crowd. Honestly, Beverly, we were tired of the constant threats and nitpicking. Mr. Marina added. Timber paid a fair price and seems like someone who actually wants to help. I addressed the group once more. As your new chairman, I'd like to announce the first immediate changes. I glanced at my notes and began listing them. Motion 1. Eliminate all fines based on aesthetic restrictions. A wave of relieved murmur spread through the crowd. Motion 2. Remove penalties for minor lawn care violations. Even more nods of approval. Motion 3. Open riverfront access to all residents without additional fees. That drew actual applause. Beverly stood off to the side, visibly shaking with rage. Early couldn't string together a single word. Her silence said it all. Mr. Marina followed up. So this A route was just something you made up? Still no answer. Inspector Davis looked firm. Ma'am, I'll have to report this to the county. Filing false emergency documents can be criminal. Officer Brooks nodded. And after yesterday's misuse of 911, this looks like a pattern. You may be facing real consequences here. Beverly's panic finally surfaced. Wait, I can explain if this is just a misunderstanding. I decided to show a little grace. Officers, I said, I don't wish to press charges. Beverly clearly cares about this community. Her passion's just been a little misdirected. She stared at me in disbelief. So, you're going to turn into a dictator too? I gently cut her off. No, Beverly, I'm going to be a neighbor. That's the difference between you and me. It was becoming crystal clear to everyone around USA Beverly had wielded authority as a weapon, using rules to intimidate and isolate. I planned to use that same authority to lift the community, not control it. A spontaneous round of applause broke out. Finally, we can actually enjoy living here, someone called out. Bill Murphy raised his hand. Timber, what about those river access fees Beverly made us pay? Perfect setup. Great question, Bill. Let's talk about those, I said, pulling out a folder of county records. Beverly, you charged each family $500 annually for riverfront maintenance, correct? She folded her arms defensively. That was a valid HOA assessment. I gave a slow, thoughtful nod. The issue is, Beverly, you never had the legal authority to collect those fees. Confusion flashed across her face. What do you mean? Because, I explained, as I mentioned last week, I hold exclusive usage rights to this section of the river. That means any fees collected for access or use were unauthorized. You could hear a pin drop as the numbers hit home. Let's do the math. 26 families, $500 a year. For 3 years a broken bar, that's $39,000 in fees you had no right to collect. Beverly visibly paled. That money went toward improving the neighborhood. I raised an eyebrow. Can you name 3 specific improvements? She opened her mouth a broken bar and closed it again. Nothing. A voice from the crowd muttered, that was my kid's tuition. The crowd's mood turned. The energy shifted like static in the air before a storm. Voices started rising. You took money from us with no right. We trusted you. Where did it go? This sounds a lot like fraud. I raised my hand calmly. Everyone, please see, let's not let anger take over. I have a suggestion. The murmuring faded. Rather than pursue legal action for the unauthorized collections, I propose a straightforward solution. All riverfront access fees collected over the last 3 years will be refunded. The response was instant and overwhelming. Cheers, clapping, even whistles. Beverly looked like she might faint. I don't have $39,000 to give back, I shrugged sympathetically. Then you shouldn't have charged what you weren't authorized to. She tried one last argument, but that money helped the community. For what exactly? I asked, my voice steady. She had no answer. The silence spoke for itself. And then, the final vote. It was unanimous. Even the few who had once defended her now raised their hands approving her removal from every HOA position. As she gathered her things, preparing to leave, she tried one last threat. Fine, but you'll regret this. The neighborhood will see who you really are. I met her glare with sincerity. They already have, Beverly. What they see now is transparency, fairness, and actual respect for the law. Then I laid out the changes officially going into effect. All previous fines nullified, all non-safety related restrictions suspended, full and equal access to all neighborhood amenities. The applause was louder than before this time. It felt like real relief. As Beverly stormed off toward her house, I called out one final olive branch. Community barbecue next Saturday. Beverly. Everyone's welcome, including you. She didn't respond, just kept walking, but the confusion on her face was unmistakable. Bill chuckled beside me. What's next on your agenda, Timber? I smiled, eyes still on Beverly's retreating figure. It's time we all learned what a real community can be. Saturday arrived with sunshine and a perfect breeze for a gathering. Bill Murphy and several other neighbors helped me set up grills, folding tables, and colorful decorations by the river. The entire mood was different now, relaxed, light-hearted, even hopeful. Are you sure inviting Beverly was a smart move? Bill asked while loading a cooler with drinks. Sometimes, I said, people just need a chance to show who they really are. Mrs. Patterson was arranging a bouquet nearby and chimed in. Honestly, I hope she doesn't come. We could all use one day without the drama. By 2 o'clock, families began arriving, kids darting through the grass near the water, music playing from a Bluetooth speaker, and neighbors finally mingling like they belonged. The contrast was stark from Beverly's tight-fisted reign to this easy camaraderie. And then a broken bar she arrived. Beverly arrived overdressed in a stiff blazer and polished heels, clutching her ever-present clipboard like it was a weapon. She looked less like a neighbor at a barbecue and more like a building inspector on a mission. Well, she declared loudly, making sure every ear within range could hear her. What a circus this has become. Her voice carried that sharp edge of disapproval we'd all grown far too used to. I gave her a cheerful wave from behind the grill. Glad you made it, Beverly. Burger or hot dog? She sniffed. I'm not here to eat, I'm here to observe a broken bar and document. While neighbors laughed, chatted, and passed around plates of food, Beverly stood stiffly on the sidelines, scribbling notes like she was preparing for a code violation sting operation. The contrast couldn't have been more obvious. As the mood lifted with laughter and connection, I picked up the microphone. Before we eat, would anyone like to share memories or thoughts about life in Clearwater Ridge? Hands went up all around. Mr. Johnson, a newer resident, spoke first. We moved in a few months ago. The welcome has been incredibly. Our kids love having access to the river. Mrs. Patterson nodded. For the first time in years, I don't dread opening my mailbox and finding another fine. The atmosphere was electric. Stories of relief, of friendship, of freedom. But Beverly couldn't hold her tongue. This used to be a structured neighborhood. Now it's chaos. Kids treating the river like it's a public pool. Garden gnomes, towels. Tacky nonsense. She pointed at a towel left near a bench. This is how good neighborhoods collapse. The crowd turned, stunned by her bitterness. Mrs. Patterson raised an eyebrow. Excuse me, Beverly. Beverly wasn't done. Look at those children running near the water. No fencing, no supervision, no safety standards. I stepped in calmly. Parents are supervising their children. Beverly, they're just a broken bar enjoying themselves. But she wasn't hearing any of it. This is exactly what I tried to prevent. This used to be a respectable place. Just then, little Tommy Marina ran up from the riverbank, soaked and beaming. Mom, the water's so warm today. Beverly's reaction was instant and explosive. See, this is exactly what I mean, an unsupervised kids in a dangerous environment. Mrs. Marina frowned, confused. I've been watching him the whole time. He knows how to swim. But Beverly was already on a tirade. "That dock," she pointed wildly, "is 6 inches over regulation length. That gnome, a direct violation of aesthetic standards." She marched toward the riverbank, her voice growing shrill. "And someone removed my safety fence." I smiled. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. "Your safety fence?" I asked, all polite curiosity. "Yes," she snapped. "The one protecting the emergency access route." Bill Murphy grinned. "Didn't the inspector say there's no such thing?" Beverly faltered. "Well, a broken bar there should be. I designated that for the community's protection." "So," I asked, my tone neutral but unmistakable, "you admit to fabricating an emergency access route?" "It wasn't fake," she cried. "It was necessary. None of you understand how proper communities are supposed to function." I looked out over the river. Children laughing, parents chatting, plates piled high. It didn't look like dysfunction, it looked like a real neighborhood. Officer Brooks, patrolling nearby, heard the commotion and walked over. "Ma'am," she said, approaching Beverly, "did I just hear you admit to filing a false emergency designation?" Beverly lit up, and not with guilt, but with misplaced righteousness. "Officer, thank goodness. Look at this mess of kids running near water. No barriers, no safety enforcement." Officer Brooks scanned the scene, unimpressed. "I see families enjoying themselves, legally and responsibly. Parents are present. No laws are being broken." But Beverly couldn't let it go. "This is dangerous. Someone could get hurt." That's when the last of the neighborhood's patience finally ran out. Mrs. Patterson stood, her voice like a thunderclap. "Enough, Beverly." Years of quiet resentment had boiled over. "For 3 years, you made our lives miserable with your pointless rules. You fined us illegally. You harassed families. You called the police on your own neighbors." Beverly's mask cracked, revealing what had always been underneath. "I was protecting this community from turning into a broken bar." "Into a broken bar?" Her voice faltered. "From turning into what, Beverly?" I asked, soft but firm. She hesitated. "A broken bar," then said it. "A trailer park. A place where anyone can move in and wreck our property values." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "You people don't appreciate what I've done. Yeah, order, structure, class." She looked around, her disgust plain. "Without my enforcement, this place will be overrun with a..." She gestured toward the smiling, diverse families around here. "These people." Little Maria Lopez, clutching a plastic bucket with a fish inside, ran up to her. "Mrs. Beverly, want to see the fish I caught?" Beverly recoiled like the child was diseased. "Don't touch me with those dirty hands." Maria's mother stood up, stunned. "Excuse me?" But Beverly doubled down. "This is exactly what I mean. No discipline, no standards." Then a broken bar. Silence. The entire gathering stared at her. And finally, Bill Murphy said what everyone was thinking. "Beverly, we finally see who you really are." "Devastating," Bill said quietly. "You're not someone protecting this community, Beverly. You're someone who thinks she's better than it." Mrs. Marina added, her voice calm but firm, "You don't want standards, you want control. Control over people you don't think deserve to be here." Mr. Peterson didn't hold back either. "This was never about property values. You just didn't want people you didn't like living near you." I stepped forward, voice steady as I addressed the crowd and her. "Real community isn't built on fear or control. It's built on connection, trust, and inclusion." I gestured to the laughing children, the smiling parents, the vibrant life around us. "You made rules to divide us. I'm removing them so we can finally come together. And clearly, it's working." Beverly gave one final, desperate glare. "Fine, enjoy your little carnival. But when property values tank, don't come crying to me." She stormed off toward her car, clipboard in hand like a broken scepter. Applause broke out the moment her car door slammed shut. As soon as she was gone, the entire atmosphere lifted like a fog clearing. Conversations resumed, kids returned to their games, and laughter flowed again. Mrs. Patterson leaned toward me. "Should we feel bad for her?" Bill shook his head. "Some people would rather be bitter than happy. That's their choice." Officer Brooks, still nearby, offered a rare smile. "For what it's worth, this is the most genuine, welcoming neighborhood event I've seen in years. What you've all built here, it matters." As the sun dipped low and families packed up to head home, I noticed a new sign staked in Beverly's front lawn: "For sale, Bill spotted it too. Think she's really leaving? I watched as the porch light flicked off early. Bill, for people like Beverly, running is easier than admitting they were wrong. Monday morning, moving trucks pulled up outside Beverly's home. Real estate agents walked the perimeter, pointing and taking notes. She wasn't just leaving, she was vanishing. As I put the final touches on my cabin, sanding the new window frame, Bill wandered over with his coffee. She's really doing it. No goodbyes, no apologies, just a broken bar gone. I nodded. Some people can't face accountability. Easier to disappear than admit they're lost. Just after noon, a woman in a sharp blazer approached with a folder in hand. Mr. Mitchell, I'm Sarah from Mountain View Realty. Mrs. Hartwell mentioned you might be interested in local listings. I set down my tools. Actually, yes, I've got friends looking for a home in a real community. She grinned. Well, the Hartwell property is priced for a quick sailing riverfront access, and now a broken bar, a much more flexible HOA. We shared an unspoken understanding. 2 weeks later, the Torres family moved in. Mike, Jennifer, their twin 8-year-old boys, and a golden retriever named Buddy. They couldn't have been more different from Beverly. Friendly, warm, open. Jennifer waved as she passed while I was staining the deck. Timber, thank you for the warm welcome. The boys are obsessed with the river already. I wiped my hands on a rag and smiled. That's what this place is for. Jennifer, a family's actually enjoying where they live. Clearwater Ridge had become unrecognizable in the best possible way. Kids rode bikes freely again. Garden decorations reflected real personality. People waved. They talked. They helped each other. The riverfront was alive with joy, not regulation. Mrs. Patterson stopped by to admire the finished cabin. It's like we're living in a whole new neighborhood. I poured her some coffee from my thermos. Check the listings. The property values are up 15% since I became HOA chairman. Her eyebrows rose. Really? But Beverly said your cabin would ruin everything. I gestured toward the Torres boys splashing at the water's edge. People don't want to live where they're policed. They want to live where they're respected. Our first home meeting under new leadership was small, efficient, and for Ancia pleasant. No one was afraid of mailboxes or hidden fines. Mr. Marina approached me afterward with a grateful look. Timber, the way you handled everything, a broken bar with patience. Fairness, I wouldn't have had that kind of restraint. I started to thank him when Mrs. Patterson quietly handed me a card. Inside, just one handwritten sentence. Thank you for helping us breathe again. Tuesday evening, my phone rang with an unfamiliar Montana number. I answered. Hello? A familiar voice replied, quieter than I remembered. A broken bar. This is Beverly Hartwell. I blinked. Beverly, I didn't expect to hear from you. How are you settling in? There was a long pause. Yeah, broken bar. I called because I heard that property values actually went up after I left. Beverly's voice on the phone was quiet, uncertain. I confirmed. That's right. A longer pause. Then, I don't understand. My rules were supposed to protect those values. I chose my words carefully. Beverly, your rules were never about protection. They were about control. People don't want to live under constant threat of fines and violations. They want respect, support, freedom. Property values follow quality of life, not fear. The line went silent so long I wondered if she'd hung up. Finally, she spoke. Yeah, broken bar. I may have made some mistakes. Recognizing that is a start, I said evenly, but there was real harm done to real families. Another pause. Then, softly, I know, I just a broken bar. I wanted to apologize. I appreciated the gesture, even if it had come too late. Apology noted. Beverly, but this community has moved forward. We're focused on building something better, not reliving old conflicts. She was quiet again. Then, hesitantly, Timber, broken bar. Do you think I could ever come back? Start over somehow? I let the question hang, not wanting to be harsh, but unwilling to lie. Beverly, community isn't defined by a place. It's defined by how we treat each other. You can start over anywhere, but the real question, Isa, will you change? The line clicked. Disconnected. That summer evening, I sat on the porch of my completed cabin, coffee in hand as the sun painted the river gold. The Torres twins played alongside the Murphy grandkids by the water's edge. Mrs. Patterson was tending her garden, finally free from fear of citations. Mr. Marina grilled dinner, the smell drifting over the breeze. Jennifer Torres waved from across the yard as she set up a sprinkler. "Timber, a family barbecue tomorrow. You're coming, right?" I raised my mug with a smile. "Wouldn't miss it." Bill Murphy climbed the steps to join me, coffee in hand. I scooted over on the porch swing. "You know what's funny, Timber?" he asked. "What's that?" He gestured to the peaceful scene in front of us. Beverly's greatest fear was that this place would turn to chaos. But look at it. He was right. Lawns reflected personality instead of regulation. Families smiled freely. Kids played safely. The rigid tension that had once ruled Clearwater Ridge was gone, replaced by something vibrant. "Turns out," Bill said, "class isn't about rules. It's about how you treat people." My business had been thriving to a quiet, stable, productive, the kind of life Beverly's regime would have smothered. That afternoon, I received a call from Sarah, the real estate agent. "Mr. Michela, 3 more families just reached out. They're specifically asking about community leadership. Clearwater Ridge is becoming the place to raise a family." Out by the river, I saw the Torres twins helping another kid bait a hook. As stars appeared in the evening sky, I reflected on everything we'd been through. Beverly thought leadership meant controlling people. I learned it means creating space for people to grow. She tried to stop change. I learned to guide it. She saw the community as something to rule. I saw it as something to serve. The perfect finale came at our first annual River Day Festival. Over 50 families joined from neighboring areas. Kids fished safely under watchful parents. Local businesses sponsored games and booths. Laughter echoed across the water. Miguel Torres ran up holding a shimmering bass. "Mr. Timber, look at the fish I caught." I knelt to admire it. "That's a beauty, Miguel. Think your parents will be proud." His grin stretched ear to ear. "Yeah, Mom says river access is the best part of living here." I turned to look at the riverbank of families gathered, children laughing, neighbors helping one another. Beverly had once feared that letting go of control would destroy the neighborhood, but it hadn't. It had saved it. Sometimes, bullies need to be outmaneuvered. Sometimes, broken systems need to be reformed from the inside. Sometimes, the best way to let a broken bar is to give power back. As the sun set over Clearwater Ridge, casting golden light on a community reborn, I knew we'd achieved something rare. Not just victory over a tyrant, but the creation of something better, something real. Thanks for being part of YA Stories. Have you ever faced an HOA nightmare or a community bully? Drop your story in the comments, so we love hearing about how people reclaimed their neighborhoods. And remember, sometimes, the best revenge is a broken bar. A broken bar is just living well, surrounded by people who get it. Make sure to subscribe. The next story might just top this one.